All right, good evening and thank you for joining me. I'm First Alert meteorologist Jake Lambright here with a quick weather update for you. Of course, so far we have not seen the geomagnetic storm strong enough, anywhere close to strong enough to see the aurora here this far south, but I do want to recap kind of what we've seen here with last night's round of the aurora. Here's a look at some photos I took yesterday. This was kind of near North Bayou Rapides Road. See that very well there on the camera. In fact, what I'm kind of circling here with the mouse, I saw that with my own eyes, just a little bit more dull compared to how it looks in the photos. Then here's my second photo out there from the same area. It looked beautiful out there last night. I could see a little bit of a pinkish tint there without the camera, with just my eyes. Here's some photos that y'all submitted to us. This first one here is from James out of Cheneyville. You can see the northern lights out there. You can see that kind of purple and pink hue. Just keep scrolling down. Kristen shared her photos out of Dry Prong. Darren out of Denham Springs, and this was right after he proposed to his future wife. What a big life event, and then to see the northern lights on top of that, definitely something you'll remember forever. Terrence there seeing the aurora out of Catahoula Parish. Taylor seeing it out of Fort Jess. As we keep scrolling down, Kelsey there seeing him out of Sugartown. Allison there had a great photo in Ball. Melissa even seeing them all the way over in Manny. Even Erica there with a great view out of Forest Hill. So again, I'm going to scroll through these here for just a couple minutes, or a few more seconds, I should say. But thank you so much for everybody that shared your photos with us yesterday. Again, what a wonderful sight to see. It's not all that common that we see the lights this far south. Again, this happened last year in May of 2024, and then once again in October. But this certainly topped what we saw in October of last year. It's because the sun right now is kind of in its 20-year solar cycle. So maybe we get one or two more of these events, but again, not a guarantee. It is possible though, so something to look out for. So I've used some terms like geomagnetic storms, these G1, G5, what does all of this mean? Well, let's talk about it a little bit more. A geomagnetic storm is a disturbance in Earth's magnetosphere caused by changes in energy from the solar wind. Like I said, we categorize these on a scale of 1 to 5. So there's G1, G2, G3, G4, and G5. Now I've got that arrow there because that's what was in the forecast for this evening, was a G3. But for us in Louisiana, we have to be at G4 or G5 in order to even see it with our smartphone. So once we get to a very, very strong G3 right on the line of G4, that's when we can kind of see it through the lens of a camera or smartphone with a long exposure. As we get closer to G5, that's when you can see it with your eyes. So last night, I don't think we officially hit G5, but we were very, very close to it, because I can tell you for sure in Alexandria there for a minute, I was able to see some of the pillars without the assistance of my camera. Now here's a look at the geomagnetic storm forecast through the rest of the night tonight. Things will continue winding down. We've hit 9 o'clock. We had some G3 conditions right on track with the forecast, and things are starting to wind down to that G2 level and below. Beyond midnight tonight, of course, that geomagnetic storm will be much weaker, G2, or G1 I should say. And from there, not expecting much more. Even if it was very strong, we've got some fog rolling in and some cloud cover, so it would be a little more tricky for us to see it here in central Louisiana. So I know I talked about this a little bit earlier on air, but if this were to G4 strength, so again, strong enough where we could see it with our smartphone cameras, we're kind of right there on the line of it being on the northern horizon, where we might be able to make it out a little bit with our eyes and only being able to see it with the camera, but just completely visible to the naked eye. You have to be all the way up basically in South Missouri, kind of South Kansas, and areas to the north. So certainly spectacular view for us and treat for us yesterday here in Louisiana. If you take a look at some of the photos out toward Kansas and Missouri, it does look a lot different. You see a lot more of the colors and a lot more of the movement being a little further to the north. All right, so we've talked a little bit about the northern lights, recapped yesterday, talked about what is a geomagnetic storm at kind of the different levels. Now we got to talk about what's to come here over the next couple days. Next few days are really nice for the most part, but one thing you will notice as you step out the door for that morning commute is the potential for some dense fog. In fact, let's fast forward things to about 7 a.m. Latest Futurecast here showing things not as impressive for our area. However, I still have fog in the forecast, and I do still think it will be dense in some locations. That's what that white shading indicates. Would not be surprised to see a little more dense fog across central Louisiana than what you're seeing on your screen there. You might want to give yourself 5 or so extra minutes as you head out the door tomorrow morning. Of course, you will want to take it a little bit slower on the roads if you do hit some dense fog tomorrow morning. As we go through the rest of the night tonight, we'll have those low temperatures back into the low and mid, or this was this morning, I should say. We started the day off in the low and mid 40s. Sorry, kind of multitasking there. So it was coolish this morning, but closer to average. Beyond This morning, though, temperatures will be climbing to above average for those morning lows. And of course, we'll stay above average for our high temperatures as well. I do see Tanya asked a question real quick. That's what I was kind of looking at the side while I was also watching the graphics as well. I want to answer this real quick. Tanya, of course, asking about the northern lights tonight. Chance of seeing them at this point extremely low, and not get your hopes up. If something changes, I'll make sure to let you know over on our social media platforms. But for now, I am not hopeful and not anticipating that we will be seeing them this far to the south. All right, moving forward, like I said, low temperatures, 40s this morning. They get warmer in the mornings to come. Tomorrow morning, we start things off in the mid-50s, so about 10 degrees warmer. We keep lows pretty consistent until we get to Sunday morning. That's when we start climbing to those upper 50s, low 60s, and we keep morning lows in the 60s for a good chunk of next week. Things finally getting a little bit cooler as we head toward next weekend. Not this upcoming weekend, but the following weekend. So we're going to be trending unseasonably warm for this time of the year over most of the 10-day forecast. Now today, afternoon highs were in the mid to upper 70s. We'll see similar weather tomorrow, upper 70s, low 80s in a couple spots. Then we'll be keeping things in the low 80s really through the first half next week. Then we dip back down into the 70s. We'll be closer to average, but you'll notice average high this time of the year, 70 degrees. So through all of the 10-day forecast, even at our coolest, we'll still be running above the average for this time of the year. So hometown lows tonight, mid-50s. We're running about 10 degrees or so above our average for this time of the year. Tomorrow's forecast, we'll start the day 9 a.m., mid-60s, in the mid-70s by lunchtime, getting close to 80 for those afternoon highs. We're staying in the mid-60s after the sun sets, starting at 7 p.m. and then continuing even into the 9 to 10 o'clock hour. All right, do want to give you the first alert to this here. Here's a look at our weather setup as we head into next week. This is actually Saturday evening. You'll see this trough of low pressure here moving across the central part of the United States. That, and I don't have my timeline going out further than this, but that is our next weather maker on the horizon, and that will really bring us noticeable rain chances as we head into the first half of next week. You'll notice rain chances really picking up, probably starting Monday night, continuing on into Tuesday and Wednesday as well. And there's even a chance we see some off and on unsettled weather in the way of rain through a good chunk of next week. You'll actually see that here on the 10-day forecast coming up here in just a moment. Speaking of the 10-day forecast, got a couple more things to go through with you here. If you have any questions or just want to pop in and say hey, you're more than welcome to do that on our Facebook chat. I've got it pulled up here to the side, and I'll be getting to more of those questions here in just a moment. For now, though, we've got a nice and clear view from our Paragon Casino Resort camera over in Marksville. Again, things pretty nice tonight, not quite as chilly as they were last night. Temperatures already cooling down into the upper 50s for some. You'll see 58 there in Winfield, 57 in Manny. Still holding on to 60 degrees here in Alexandria and Marksville. The warmest spot right now, 63 over in Leesville. So we'll all be shifting into the upper 50s by midnight tonight at the latest. Then it's a slow descend from there into the mid 50s by the time you step out the door tomorrow morning. Winds also become calm after midnight tonight. We've got that light breeze right now continuing at about 5 miles per hour. But again, becoming calm after midnight tonight. That's when we start to see that fog settle in, and for some locations tomorrow, that fog could be dense. All right, here's a look at your first alert 7-day forecast. Really, we're looking at sunny skies beyond that fog tomorrow morning, a little bit of cloud cover for the morning hours as well. Sunshine for the afternoon, that continues on through the weekend. We'll have highs there in the upper 70s to low 80s. As we head into next week, again, that's when the weather is looking a little more unsettled. 40% chance of rain there for your Tuesday and Wednesday. Your 10-day forecast here shows that unsettled weather continuing off and on through the end of the week and potentially into the following weekend as well. Of course, we'll be monitoring for any kind of strong to severe storm threat. Not seeing anything super substantial as of now. Of course, this is still toward the end of our 7 and 10-day forecast. I do expect some fine tuning with the details as we get a little bit closer to the middle of next week. All right, I don't see any other questions here, so I will go ahead and hop off for now. Of course, I'll have the latest weather for you coming up tonight at 10 over on NBC. You can also watch that on our smart TV apps. If you have a Roku, Fire, Apple TV device, we'll be streaming live right there as well. You can also watch these weather updates Monday through Thursday during football season at 9 on that smart TV app as well. All right, I'll hop off. I'll see you coming up in about 50 minutes. Have a great night, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me.